should we pursue human space exploration now at the start of the 21st century with so many other problems looming? I feel that there is a case for space, but it is a case that must be made, not assumed, and this case must be made in the cold light of a century dawning. This video is my argument for continuing human space exploration now. However, this argument is not the answer that anybody wants. The space race started as a competition between countries, the US of A and the Soviet Union. That bit of history ended with the Americans reaching the moon and the very big Soviet lunar rocket blowing up on the pad. We won, the world celebrated, but there was no real plan for continuing human space exploration when the ticker tape parades ended. The primary driver for human space exploration, the space race, was kaput. The Space Shuttle was then built, but it was designed by committee, and was not allowed to have a needed titanium skin, because all those manufacturing facilities were tied up with military aircraft. A system of thermal tiles was chosen and worked, but proved ruinously expensive. After a number of good science flights, a space station called Freedom was proposed and the technical design process started. This was a blatant attempt to extend the old space race with Russia. Just then, the USSR fell apart. This placed hundreds of thousands of highly trained people on the international labor market. These people knew how to make good rockets and good bombs. The US of A initiated a massive program of cooperative technical projects specifically to keep the Russian technical people employed, so they would not go to work for the enemies of America. These projects were not publicized, but they proved effective. The biggest of these projects was the International Space Station, then on its third complete redesign and third name. This mega project worked well too. The station was built, very few Russian technical people went to work for bad guys. Unfortunately, the shuttle proved it was not a cheap path to low Earth orbit, and a high inclination orbit needed so the rockets could reach the International Space Station from Russian launch pads meant that it was useless as a way station going onto the Moon or Mars. Then the 21st century approached. All during Apollo to the Moon, people interested in social progress, and not the least bit interested in space, complained bitterly about throwing the money away. They had a case, but the drive of the space race simply overrid them. There persisted a very disruptive zero-sum game between space people and the social progress people. Once the space race was won, the social progress people and safety issues cancelled the last two Apollo missions. Space budgets were cut hard. An effort was then made to convert space to a commercial venture, but this has proved a weak sideshow simply because non-governmental opportunities in space are very limited. Then the 21st century actually showed up. It was in your face. About then, people started to notice that we are, in fact, heating up our own planet. Historic blue marble photographs of the Earth taken from space and showing the entire Earth as a minuscule speck in an infinite background of black helped cement this realization into the human consciousness. Decades of satellite measurements nailed the science. In 2018, two major studies on climate change came out, the United Nations IPCC SR 1.5 and the American NCA 4. They made it clear that a major worldwide effort to mitigate the effects of climate change is necessary to prevent irreparable damage to our key institutions. An all-hands-to-the-pumps effort is needed, we have no other option. Fortunately, such a mass action is quite possible given the current state of our communication, new technologies, and the general wealth of the world. If we mess this one up, it will simply be our fault. This effort will be the major thrust of society from 2020 to 2050, not Mars. Yes, this effort will change all our lives, for the worse if we take no action, for the better, if we bust a gut. The question in this video then is there a place for human space exploration in this critical effort? My answer is yes. Space has taught us a number of sustaining lessons that can serve as a basis for our effort to address the climate change problems we now must face. Our space keepers include the blue marble. The Earth is our only home, we are its steward. Our vision forward. Exploring space has always has an eye to the future. Keep Apollo to the moon. Working together. Truly massive international projects, like the ISS, can be done. Moreover, when we have mediated the damage we have done to Earth, then, and only then, we will be ready to settle the Moon and Mars. What will a 21st century space program be like? Low cost. There can be no big government spending. Support the Earth. Space will work with the climate mitigation effort, not compete with it for funds. Keep our keepers. Space will help us retain the hard-earned lessons we have learned from it so far. The Big Moon Dig is just such an effort. Now in its early days, tell the story. Tell stories about believable characters and dedicated action on many problems of climate change, including our 21st century approaches to human space exploration. Build a lunar settlement. Slowly design and build a human settlement on the moon. For the longest time, we will be tied to the problems of Earth. Only later, when we have done all we need to do, will our people get to the moon. Thanks for your attention. Google, The Big Moon Dig, for our contact information and free stories about believable characters and dedicated action on problems of climate change, including 21st century approaches to human space exploration. Please subscribe to see more videos in this series detailing how we propose 21st century human space exploration. As to the climate deniers, we will just have to leave them in our dust. Thank you, Tom Riley. The Big Moon Dig.